In 1845, two of the most advanced ships in the British Royal Navy sailed into the Arctic. Their mission was simple: find a sea route through the frozen north. On board were 129 men, experienced sailors, officers, scientists, and one of Britain's most respected explorers. They carried enough supplies to survive for years. They had the best technology available at the time, and they were expected to return as heroes. Instead, every single one of them disappeared. What happened next became one of the greatest survival mysteries in human history. The expedition was led by Sir John Franklin. At 59 years old, Franklin was already a veteran Arctic explorer. His ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, were specially modified for polar exploration. Their hulls were reinforced with iron. They carried steam engines, and they were stocked with enough food to last several years. The goal was to discover the Northwest Passage, a route that could connect Europe and Asia through the Arctic. If successful, it would change global trade forever. In May 1845, the expedition departed England to great celebration. No one knew they were watching these men for the last time. The expedition's final confirmed sighting came in July 1845. A group of whaling ships spotted Franklin's vessels near Greenland. Then, nothing. Months passed. Then years. No messages arrived. No ships returned. As concern grew, Britain launched search missions into the Arctic. What they found only deepened the mystery. Abandoned camps, discarded equipment, and scattered personal belongings frozen in the ice. Then came the most important discovery of all: a handwritten note hidden inside a stone cairn. The note revealed that the ships had become trapped in ice. Sir John Franklin was dead, and the surviving crew had abandoned the vessels. For the first time, investigators knew that the expedition had not vanished suddenly. It had slowly fallen apart. But the evidence raised even more questions. If the men escaped the ships alive, why did none of them survive? Search teams discovered heavy silver plates and dining utensils abandoned along their route. Why would starving men carry luxury items instead of food? Even stranger, human bones were later found with cut marks. Marks consistent with attempts to remove flesh. The discovery shocked historians. Had the crew been pushed to such extreme conditions that they resorted to cannibalism? The idea was controversial, but the evidence was difficult to ignore. Something terrible had happened out on the ice. Over the decades, investigators collected stories from Inuit communities living in the region. Local hunters described seeing starving white men dragging boats across the frozen landscape. Some reported finding bodies. Others spoke of ships trapped in the ice. At the time, many British officials dismissed these accounts. But years later, archaeological discoveries began proving that many of the Inuit stories were accurate. Modern scientists examined recovered remains using advanced forensic techniques. Their findings suggested the men suffered from a combination of starvation, disease, and extreme exposure to the cold. Some researchers also identified unusually high levels of lead in certain remains, possibly caused by poorly sealed food cans carried on the expedition. The crew wasn't facing one disaster. They were facing several at once. Today, historians generally focus on four major explanations. The first is starvation. Once trapped in ice for years, food supplies would eventually become critically low. The second is lead poisoning. Contaminated food may have weakened the crew physically and mentally. The third is disease. Conditions like scurvy and tuberculosis could have devastated their health. And the fourth theory combines all of these factors. A deadly mix of hunger, illness, freezing temperatures, and exhaustion. Most experts believe no single cause destroyed the expedition. It was the combination that proved fatal. For nearly 170 years, nobody knew what happened to Franklin's ships. Then, in 2014, the Arctic finally revealed one of its secrets. Researchers discovered HMS Erebus beneath the icy waters of the Canadian Arctic. 2 years later, HMS Terror was found as well. The discovery stunned historians, because the ships were not where experts expected them to be. This suggested the crew may have survived much longer than previously believed. Even after more than a century and a half, the Arctic was still rewriting the story. 129 men entered the Arctic. Not one returned. Their ships vanished. Their leader died. And their final day remained one of history's greatest mysteries. Were they doomed the moment the ice trapped them? Or did a single decision seal their fate? What do you think really happened to the Franklin expedition? History still holds many unanswered questions. Subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive into the unknown.